Welcome to the Great Awakening Show. I am Joanne, Divine Life Yogini, and on this week's show, we have Justin Carpenter. Justin is an awakened, heartfelt seeker of truth and divine wisdom. His Wandering Towards Truth YouTube channel posts fireside chats and community and health Q&A sessions with Charlie Freak and people from all around the world.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Justin, welcome back to the Great Awakening Show.
Thanks, Joanne. Appreciate you for having me. Always good to be here. Always good to see you.
It's lovely, lovely, lovely. So, Justin, really at this time, please tell us the truth about what is happening in our world now.
Well, that is a huge question. But essentially what we're going through is, and as you and your audience are well aware of, this is the Great Awakening. This is us moving through this transitionary period where we're moving out of this age of slavery and control and indoctrination, all of that, and we're moving into our birthright, which is where we are children of God, and we recognize that we are sovereign and that we don't need anyone. Authority has always been an illusion, but we're going to remember that, and we're going to remember who we truly are and step back into our divinity. And so that's playing out on the physical plane in the sense where the control structure that has existed for so long is crumbling and it's all falling apart. And part of this is those of us who are unaware of what's going on and who have tied themselves to that sort of reality are starting to see their world fall apart because their whole world is built around that reality. And so as the seams start to be exposed and the cracks in the walls start to be exposed and show, it can be scary for a lot of people because it's like, holy smokes, like I don't even know what's going on. Like I can't even imagine. But that's what we're here to do. You and I, and those of us who are aware and paying attention, we're here to help facilitate this transition and help make it as smooth as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what's going on in a nutshell, and we can certainly get into more details if you like. But
Yeah, because I can just see the utter, on one side, just the hopelessness of people, and it's sad, it's the suffering, and I believe that we have to go through this. We're going through the darkness to get to the light, to the other side. But the only way that, as you said before, the only way that we will truly learn and never go back there again is by going through the tough times, by going through that darkness. And that's what we're in. We are really in that pain part where many of us might not make it through, because it is so tough, isn't it? To explain a little bit about how we got here. So about that, and about how they, I call them the globalists and the cabal, whatever, but what they've done to brainwash us and program us, and for us to be at this point now.
yeah, so it's the cabal, the globalists. I mean, we say they. It's not really a they. It's still us, but it's the external personification of our left brain, of our ego. And what that does when it's left unchecked, when it's allowed to run amok and run rampant and take control, it always leads to this space where it's this domineering, like it's dog eat dog, everyone's fighting everyone else. And so that's what's allowed to play out on the external plane, to where you have this small group of people who are so far down that left-hand path, so far down that egotistical path, that they're literally psychopathic.
Yeah.
And they have lost all connection with God within themselves, all connection with the divine. And so this allows them to go about in any dark, dismal sort of way you can possibly imagine, all the way up to, as far down as, yeah, eating and consuming children. This is the depravity that we've gotten to. And so this
Pure
group of
evil.
people, yeah, it truly is. And so, but we have to recognize that is not this is not a separation game. We are not separate from this. We have to recognize that this ego, this cabal, exists within me as well. This is that little voice inside my head that's trying to get me to take advantage of a situation, or to disregard caring for someone else, or to
Yeah.
act in a selfish intention.
Selfish service to self,
Exactly.
instead of
And
service to others. It's that
right.
little voice, isn't it? It's the ego, the false personality self versus the true divine self. It's that eternal battle that we all have, that we're here to be
Yeah,
enlightened from or released from.
exactly. And so that is playing out in order to provide us with the ultimate learning experience of what it looks like when we allow that little voice to run amok and to gain power. And we could not have learned this lesson if we didn't actually experience it to the fullest extent.
Yes.
So if you can imagine time as this sort of, it's not really a real thing. Time is just a mechanism in order to provide us with more of an experience. So we've allowed this time to flourish so that we could fall down. We've fallen all the way down to the very bottom to experience what that depravity feels like, so that we can break these chains, break these shackles, and recognize that I'm never ever going to allow this ego, this left brain, to take control again, because I see what happens. But
Yes.
we couldn't truly know that. We couldn't truly have learned that unless we actually experienced it. So
And yeah, unless we're actually there. It's the contrast, isn't it? The contrast forces people to the precipice, so they can't take any more, and then they change, and then they awaken to what is truly it's and it's really horrible, but it's just the way that it has to be. It forces them. Yeah.
absolutely. And like people say, well, why does it have to be this way? Why do people have to be taking the jab and getting hurt from it? Why do our children have to suffer? And well, if it didn't have to be that way, then it wouldn't.
Yeah.
It had to get this way because
Yeah.
this is what we needed to have the collective kick in the ass to
I
say
know.
no more, no more. I'm not going
Yeah.
to stand for this anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. And unfortunately, we were so stubborn, and we were so inert, we were so dumbed down and willing to abdicate our sovereignty, abdicate our righteousness, that we subconsciously chose to experience this fullest extent. So it had to be this way. And so
Yeah.
now it's this opportunity to recognize that and to say no more and to rise above it.
Yeah. I mean, I always thought, oh, it can't get any worse. It can't get, no, it's got to stop before they stop jabbing all the children in the UK. They're not going to bring it into the schools. No, it can't. But then they do, and it gets worse and worse. And I know now that, it has to be this way to, as you say, to awaken us all. It's a tough one. This one, it is. We was born for this, but it's the toughest thing we're ever going to go through in our life. And, tell us about how they have brainwashed and programmed us, because I really believe it's like the ones that don't have that connection, that divine flame, right? That have gone so far down, like you said, they've cut it away, and they don't have that connection with source, with God, Goddess. They really have they've just taken everything away, and they can never, they can't create anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we are the creators because we have the connection with God, Goddess. But because of their programming and because of their conditioning, they force us through that to create their agenda. That's what they've been doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sort of, you touched on a point that I always like to compare to God's sense of humor, because they would love to just get rid of us entirely, but they can't, because they don't know how to create anything. So they need us in order to create for them, and then they can hijack it and distort it and turn it into all sorts of things. But it's this balance, it's this perpetual balancing act to where they can never get too far out of control. God always wins because the righteousness always wins. It always comes back. They can only get so far, and this is about as far. This is probably as far as they've ever gotten. But it always rebalances because eventually they start to consume themselves. It's like this cannibalistic nature that they have. Literally, they start to consume themselves, and they're unable to make it go any further. But sorry, I forgot the original question. What was the initial question?
No, it was about the programming. Tell us about how we have allowed this over so many years for us to be programmed like this. How?
Yeah,
for them to have got so far with this. This is like good versus evil, light versus dark. This is prophecy. It's biblical. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to step back and admire just how clever they've been in perpetrating this whole mass deception, just to when you start to examine each layer that it's played out. But that's sort of the conspiracy that ties them all together, is how can they get us as disconnected as possible? How can they disconnect us from ourselves, disconnect us from each other, disconnect us from the divine, from God? And so every layer of organized society is in some way playing into this ultimate agenda. And it starts from day one. It starts from the moment we're born, and we're immediately, we're smacked on the ass and put on a cold hard table under bright lights, injected with all sorts of things, taken away from our mother, umbilical cord cuts way too early,
and then signed through the birth certificate into their corporation. And they own us from that point on.
Yep, exactly. And it just continues. It continues from there. But it's this trauma-based mind control. And they have to start from the very beginning, because the children are the most connected to God. That's where we're the closest to source. And so they hate children. They really do hate children because of that. So they start, because they are the purest. And so they start the attack the heaviest on the children, and it carries into the schools, where they're constantly just beaten and subjugated and told that they can't be creative and they have to fit in a box, and it just continues this way. And then you have it happen in movies and shows and the news. Like, everything is all fear-based. It's all just to traumatize. And you see it even in simple examples like Disney movies, where the central theme of Disney movies is always the parent dying early on in the film, which
Bambi.
is Bambi, The Lion King, so many of them have this pivotal point, which is arguably the most traumatizing thing that can happen to a child, is to have their parent die. And this is very, very calculated to insert this traumatizing segment in there, so that on the surface level it appears like it's a nice,
fluffy
happy film.
And beautiful.
But really it's playing on a deep psychological level to sort of traumatize these children. And then they insert all sorts of other hidden psychological, sexual innuendos and things of that nature to just program the kids and further distort them and get them away from source. And but you can really, once you start trying to dissect every layer of organized society, it can be overwhelming because it's
in every single system. It's in politics, it's in organized religion, it's in big pharma, it's in the schools and educational systems, it's in everything. And it's they've infiltrated it all. There's
every bit of it. And it has to be that way, because when you have an organized society that's built on lies, and their whole method is built on lies, because there's really only two options. There's the truth, and then there's the lie, and you have to choose which way to go. And they have chosen the lie ultimately. And the only way for the lie to exist wholly to exist is for there to be no truth whatsoever within it at all. So literally everything in organized society is based on a lie. It's all based on lies, and it has to be, because as soon as a little bit of truth starts to come in, that whole house of cards crumbles and falls away. And that's why they play this perpetual game of whack-a-mole, where anyone who starts to speak the truth, anyone who's starting to spread the truth, they beat them down. They kill them. They censor them. Whatever they have to do to make sure that that message is silenced. And that's why we've seen all of these sages pop up throughout history, like Jehoshua, like Krishna, like Buddha, like all of these characters who are real people who came along, and they recognized, oh, I'm a child of God and I can spread this message and spread this truth. But as soon as you come face to face with organized society, like, we can't have you with it. It's either one or the other. We can't have you exist and us exist, because you are the end of us. And so that they meet it with violence. And that's the game that we've been playing since the dawn of time in this dualistic environment, because that's the game we signed up for.
Wow. It's just crazy. And I think for around about the past maybe 150 years, they really have distorted, since, schools, proper school, they really, all the school books, all the history books, everything that science, space, everything, they really have and turned it into complete and utter lies.
Yeah, we barely even know about what the true events that have happened in the past 100 or some odd years, while people who are still alive can recount some. But you go back even further than that, and it's just all made up. Like, it's just all like that. How long
have human beings been on this planet? That's ridiculous. They tell us 10,000 years, but it's not. We've been here millennia. Dinosaurs. No, it's just like, oh my God. I told that to my son yesterday. He went, Mom, he knows with me with the flat earth and everything, and he's like, yeah, I get it, Mom, but the dinosaurs, really? And I'm like, yeah,
everything. It's like, we're gonna parade these fake versions of bones and make these statues of them, but with the real bones we've got locked away, you can't see them because they'll fall apart. And it's like, how do we fall for these lies? How do we fall for and then the globe earth? How do we fall for that?
But it's all about removing God goddess from the picture, isn't it? And removing God goddess from us, because that's who we are. They don't want us to know that we have this power. They don't want us to know about our kundalini, our beautiful chrism oil within, and our power. Like, all of this, once people start taking their sovereignty and their divinity back, it's like I got woken up through being a yogini on my spiritual way, but these past few years I've been doing on a human rights level with that sovereign way, in not paying the bills, and coming out of that system, coming out of the matrix. And once people realize that, we won't be paying any of their council tax or any of their taxes, so therefore their whole structure, which has been built on money from us, will collapse. And this is the way that we take our power back. It's just, you can feel it already crumbling now, because it's just,
and that's that. I mean, you said it well, and it doesn't require any, people imagine like some sort of violent revolution that's needed, but there's no violence that's needed at all.
We just say we don't comply.
No, you just say no. Like, no, I'm not playing that game. It's rigged. And that's all we have to do. And that's what's happening. And that's what the whole point of this Great Awakening movie that's playing out is to get us to that point to where we stand back into our true self, and we recognize that we are powerful, and we recognize that we have the ability to say no. We've always had the ability to say no. And as soon as enough people understand that, then it's over.
And when we do that, we rise up. We take that energy of, that inner sovereign divine energy, and, nothing can touch us then, because we're in that beautiful bubble of that divine energy. Nothing can touch us. No negativity can come in, because we're in that alignment, that aligned oneness, and it's beautiful. And it's like, it's so funny, because I was thinking all that busyness out there that they have caused in all of the offices and all of that, once we come out of that, we won't need any of that. we'll be doing different jobs, working on different, things that we love, instead of being in an office 9 to 5, signing things that was for a bunch of lies anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you just imagine, I mean, you can look at any sort of busyness and just the amount of paperwork
Yeah.
that has to be done, and legal documentation, record keeping. I mean, that's like 90% of what anyone ever does. And so you take away the need for any of that, and then all that's left is just, it's the passion. It's what lights you up, how can you serve your brothers and sisters and make a difference? What brings you that joy? And people do realize that serving is the ultimate thing that brings that joy. It's this creative essence that we get to unlock and allow it to flourish. And it really won't take that long at all. As soon as you take away the artificially imposed lack, the scarcity, which has been just bombarded with us all this time, because it's really not about money for them. They don't care about making money. It's just about power. So they just have to make sure that none of us make any money, so that we can't ever escape from their power control system. It's another version of chains, just to keep people in bondage through debt and usury. And so once all of that debt-based usury is taken away, debt-based slavery, then we just rise. It happens overnight. Our communities start to form. People recognize that they can get to know their neighbors and take care of each other. And the goodness that's always been within us just starts to flourish and burst forth. And yeah, I'm so excited for that. And it is right around the corner.
Yeah, me too. I can feel it so much, and I can feel it in others. And I think what you just said, that is the biggest fear. The fear of debt, the fear of money, the fear of because what they've programmed us, and also the fear of death, which is what they've put in us as well, because we are divine, eternal beings. We are. And once them two major things you can overcome within yourself, you're on your way to being that beautiful, divine, sovereign being who just doesn't care about anything out there in that 3D world. Because
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you nailed it with the fear of death, because that you can really, even the fear of like not having enough money, you can boil down every single fear that most people have into this fear of death.
Yes.
Because you just start to ask yourself, okay, well, I'm afraid of not being able to pay rent. Well, why are you afraid of? Oh, because then I won't have a place to live. Well, why are you afraid of not having a place to live? Oh, because then I'll be on the street. Well, why are you afraid of living on the street? Well, because I'll be cold, I'll be hungry. Well, why are you afraid of that? Well, because I'll eventually die. And you can boil down every single fear into this fear of death. So if we recognize that as the root fear, and recognize that if I let go of this root fear, that I am an eternal being, and that there's nothing that can take that away from me. It does not matter what happens to this physical body. It does not matter what they do to it. It does not matter if they come try to kill me or whoever or whatever else. Death is no thing. It is an illusion. And so as soon as we start to recognize that truth and let go of that fear, then all of the control mechanisms fall away. There's no, because fear is just a way for that ego, that personified ego, the cabal, to use to steer us around. It's the cattle prod. It's
fear, false evidence appearing real.
Yeah, exactly.
which
exactly. It's just this mechanism that they use to impose their slavery. And as soon as we realized that we had the key the whole time, the door was always open, we just had to step out of our cage, then there's no ability to control us. And that's why they work so hard to make sure that we never discover this. But it's always there, and it costs no money. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to listen to any guru or guide or
you just got to go within.
You got to go within.
You got to go within. It's the only way. You're not going to find it without. You've got to go within, and you've got to do the work on yourself and know who you are. Because when you go within, that's when you rise up and you do know who you are. And that's when you're fortified with that divine love light energy. And that's when nothing can harm you anymore. And you see through it all, and you're just like, wow. And for so many years, that suppression has been around us, but now we are in this age of light, the age of Aquarius. It's opened us up, and they can't, like with this energy and now, and it's the mother energy coming in, the divine mother energy is big, divine feminine this time, they can't suppress that anymore. It's just too much.
Yeah, and I mentioned at the beginning, but we agreed to all of this so that we could experience this grand exaltation, this bursting outward, where we realize how far down in the depths we were, and we realize the magnitude of what we truly are. So that contrast, like you said at the beginning, of going from that darkest of dark to the brightest of brights, wow, how beautiful of an experience for us. I mean, I just get chills just thinking about it, just rising forth and springing off the bottom, having that catastrophe where we're at the very bottom, and then we springboard off of that to jump off and say, I know who I am, and I'm here, and to regain that memory, and then to get to look back and recollect and re-examine all of these experiences that we had, all of the learning that we got to do. How powerful of an experience that is, and it couldn't be any other way. So I'm so, I'm honored. I'm so honored to be here. I'm so honored to be a part of this and to
So am
get to
I.
witness it. It's truly miraculous.
Yeah. I think, all the beings of light and the ancestors and Jesus and Mary Magdalene and, all the angels and every day, and the goddess that I am every day, for being here, and for helping others to awaken at this time, because it truly is the Great Awakening. We've been, so the Mayans and the indigenous and all the Aborigines and the Americans, they've been talking about this time, when the people of the rainbow, then when they come, and they will make the earth green again. This is the time, it really is. And we have been called, our soul has been born at this time. We've been called to serve at this time, first to awaken ourselves. And then once we've done that, then we can serve by helping others to awaken too.
Absolutely. And recognize that it's a continual learning process, that it's always an awakening. I'm never at a place where I'm awakened
Finished.
fully. Yeah, it's
No.
just it's continual learning and continual, just that. I guess it's initially awakening that thirst, that initial seeking, to where I'm open to the magic and wonder and the lore and the legends that are out there, because it is absolutely magical. And as soon as you awaken that spark within you and that drive to keep seeking, then it never has to end, and which is just such a beautiful part of this experience, because it means we never get bored. There's never an end to it. It's always an experience, always a continual just expansion. And that's what we're here to do.
And a continuous learning and a continuous letting go, and a continuous letting go of the things that no longer serve us anymore. We have that experience, and it may be good or bad, and it's a mistake or not, but we learn from that, and we learn to bless it, and then we can let it go. It's a continuous surrendering. So a continuous letting go of the dark, and a letting go of the things that the unlimited, the things that weren't good for us within, so we can open ourselves up to let more of the good, the more of the abundance, more of the light within us, isn't it? It's just so beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you about, because you mentioned it a little while ago, and I mean, the things that are coming for us to experience are going to be so terrible for people, especially ordinary ones that don't understand what's been going on. And really, it is all about our beautiful children, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about what's been going on.
Well, I mean, most of us don't even like to take our imagination to these depths, and I don't really recommend going there very often.
No.
But if you can imagine the lowest forms of depravity that mankind could dip into, which involves, the extreme torture, rape, mutilation, and eating of children, the purest in a sense, that this is the level of dark energy that these beings like to play into. And it goes all the way back, you know, to the worship of Baal and child sacrifice and all these different things. Like they still literally believe these kind of things. They believe that their gods have to be worshipped and appeased in this sort of way. And in some sense, it does give them power, because, you know, if when you look into things like adrenochrome, which is just the harvested adrenalized blood of a tortured child, it does provide as sort of artificial fountain of youth for anyone who consumes it. And so they get hooked on this stuff, and they maintain it, and they have this whole orchestrated harvesting practice where it's wide scale. And I think when people realize just how many people were involved and how big this
I mean,
system has been.
8 million children go missing every year in the world. The Silk Road, tell us about, I mean, what,
I mean, it's turned into the most
it's $150 billion industry.
Yeah.
Child sex trafficking.
Yeah. And it's the most lucrative industry. And that's just based on what we can even find information about. That's not including all of the children bred in captivity deep underground, and all of these underground
in the
bases.
Underground. But terrible.
Yeah. And so when this is this dark to light part of the Great Awakening, where we're bringing light to this darkness, and it is quite terrifying to uncover, and it will be scary and traumatizing to see. But I do want to give hope for everyone that all of this news that's going to come out, and we have to confront it. We have to confront like the darkness that we allowed to flourish right underneath us. But all of this is going to be like the reason why this Great Awakening movie has been so meticulously planned is because all of that sort of darkness is being paired with an equal amount of lightness
and beauty,
of good news and
beauty, and righteousness.
and that's going to be coming out as well. And so as this news is breaking, so it's going to be kind of like, you know, you're hit with a bit of dark news, and then you're hit with this absolute brightness, and
like Nazara will come out at the same time, which is all the money that they've all taken from the Vatican and from all the evil ones to give to humanity, so there won't be any third world countries anymore.
Exactly. So we're going to have this abundance flowing to sort of counterbalance with the darkness that we're having, because we have to go through the darkness. We have to work through that, but it's going to be paired with the fact that we don't have to live in scarcity. We're able to take care of our brothers and sisters. People don't have to starve anymore.
Exactly.
And then along with that, there's going to be so many heroes coming back to life, you know, all of these characters who have mysteriously died in different ways, who the accounts of their deaths didn't really make a whole lot of sense. We're going to find out that many of these celebrities and people who were heroes, they faked their own death in order to escape this system, because they recognized that it was so corrupt, and that if they continued spreading the light, they would have been killed outright. So they faked their death and have been waiting for this time to start to come out. So we're going to see characters like Elvis and Michael Jackson and JFK Jr. and all of these beautiful characters that people thought were long gone. We're going to see them start to come back, and then they're going to tell their story and say, like, help reassure people, like, this is
because that will awaken them to, you know, that will be the thing that really does it, you know. But I believe that they've really like, to do with the children, they've really arrested and taken and saved millions of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They really have done that already. It's
Absolutely.
You know, they've already saved, and they've already taken it all out, all of the, you know, infrastructure of that terrible time.
Yeah, they started at the top and they moved their way down. The war was won years ago, and you know, for anyone tuning in to this idea for the first time, I'd highly suggest watching Charlie Freak's videos that he did with Mark Devlin, mainly the takedown of the cabal from A to Z. But there's a couple other ones that he did in that series, speaking with Mark, and it really just shows undeniable proof that at the very beginning, Donald Trump who is very much a part of this alliance, this white hat movement that's helping facilitate this transitional change. He went around and proves that he got every single world leader from the cabal to abdicate and to capitulate to his rule, to say we have everything, we have all of
all
your
the countries. He went around to all the different countries and all of the evil corrupt cabal leaders who were all in on this with the children, and he made them capitulate.
Yep, and especially in Takedown the Cabal, it shows news clippings and evidence, and I'm sure in the UK, many of y'all remember when Donald Trump came to visit the Queen, and he walked right in front of her several times. No one in their right mind would do that if she was actually in power, but this was a big fu to her, and an fu to this whole power structure, to say, I'm in charge now, I'm in charge, and you're going to do as I say.
And it's not just him, it's the earth and spiritual alliance and all the light workers and all the people. It's not just, everyone just thinks, oh, it's just him. It's not. It's like massive, it's just, it goes beyond anything that we could ever imagine.
I mean, he's always spoke about he's with the people. He's with all of us. He's not working as a man trying to gain control. He's working to return power back to the people. And he has shown nothing but do that. And it's amazing.
Yeah. And now at this time, you can really feel, it's almost like the intensity is fastening up. Yeah. And you can see it's getting faster and faster as the old start to fall. They start to fall. You can feel it. You really can. But what about them celebrities who've sold their soul?
Yeah, so everyone is always given a choice and a chance to redeem themselves. Everyone is always given a chance to pay that atonement and ask for forgiveness. Now, some who have committed the worst crimes, such as the adrenochrome and the harming of children, in this lifetime, there is no way to get away from execution and that death that must come. If you've committed the worst crimes, you have to face that penalty. But every single one of them is given an opportunity to save their soul, because this goes far beyond this lifetime. So they're given an opportunity to play out roles within this movie, to say, do you want to help be a part of the awakening? Do you want to work with us so that we can make this happen, so that you can redeem your soul and start to right the ship? So when you come back and reincarnate the next time, you're going to be heading in the right direction, not continually down this path, because going down the left-hand path, it eventually sputters out to where you're eventually just lost. You eventually just lose all of your essence, and you
self-destruct. The left path is self-destruction.
Exactly. And it has to be that way. And so many of those individuals have realized this and have come around. Now, some haven't, and some will continue down that path. And it's always a choice. It's always a choice for each of us in every moment. But everyone is given an opportunity, and God always gives us an opportunity. God is always waiting for us to come back to Him and go down this righteous path that's been laid out before us. But He doesn't want to force anyone to love Him. It has to be a choice. It has to be us to remember who we truly are, to remember that we are part of this divinity, and consciously choose it. Otherwise it wouldn't be free will. And free will is absolute.
And I feel that at this time, I watched this video there, and this young girl in Australia, she was just crying. What are we doing? What are we doing? We're not standing up. It'll be all right, mate. It'll be all right, mate. Just have your third booster. It'll be all right, mate. But no, it won't be all right. No, this is the time when we have to come together in unity consciousness and stand up, because, and then she was just like, she was like, at the end of it, she was crying, and she was like, please God, save us, and that's how they know what they're doing up there. They've orchestrated it to be like, to turn away from that, and then to, please God, help us.
To surrender.
Surrender.
have that ultimate surrender and say, you know what, I'm done with trying to let my ego, because ego is all about control, and ego is all about us trying to control the situation, to control our thoughts, to control those around us and everything else. And
Control
so
our
as soon,
life
yeah,
out there in the 3D to try and, yeah.
exactly. So as soon as we step away from that and say, okay, you know what, I'm done with fighting. I'm done with trying to control. I surrender to God's will. And now don't get this confused with this means like don't take any action, because we have to absolutely, when we're spurred on to take action, it's a surrender to the divine will, so that as soon as that divine will impose, it reveals an action to take, we leap at that opportunity, and we take that right action. We stand up for ourselves, and we stand
Yeah.
up to our sovereignty. And sometimes that does mean to fight and to say no in a very powerful way, and to stand up for ourselves. But it doesn't mean to try and control it from an egotistical fashion and try and steer it in a way that we want it to. We have to surrender to that divine will, recognize that that divine will is me. It's my highest self. And so of course it's always going to lead me to the best possible scenario, because that highest self, God, always has the highest perspective. So of course God's going to be able to see what the best route is. So I would be foolish not to listen to that highest path and that highest route, because it's always going to lead me to that space of maximum potential, that space of abundance.
Yes. And it might seem the hardest path because ego and that 3D world is all shiny with the propaganda, and it's all like, come and do this, you can go and have the drink and the alcohol, you can go and have this, and you can go and have all this luxury, and you can have everything, and it's so tempting. It's the devil. Isn't it tempting? It's a temptation. When you let go of that,
it is.
Yeah, it's so much. But when you let go of that, and you're just like, you're just coming from that place of righteousness, then everything you do, you think, you say is beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. And you touched on a good note with temptation, and just wanted to clarify, what these are. And people ask, well, why do the foods that are horrible for me have to taste the
because
best?
they've made them that
Why
way.
am I tempted into doing? Yeah, well, yes, but we also agreed to have them be that way, because when temptations are difficult to surpass, they make the challenge that much greater, and it makes the reward that much greater. So when we're able to overcome these temptations and say, you know what, I don't need that anymore. I'm rising past those temptations of the flesh to where I don't have these carnal desires. When you're able to move past them, then you can look back when you're high on the mountain and say, wow, I did all that. I let go of all those desires, and I let them rest. I let them be. And what greater reward is that than to have that actually be a challenge? If it was easy, then it would be boring.
Yes.
It wouldn't be a fun game. So we agreed to have these challenges, these temptations be very difficult. And sometimes maybe we agreed for them to be a little bit too difficult. Sometimes it seems like it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
But I know that the reward on the other side is going to be that much more fruitful because of it.
It's going to be absolutely beautiful.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
And as we do that, as we rise, and as we let go of that temptation, we let go of them, egotistical thoughts and feelings, and that negativity and that self-doubt and that fear, we become lighter. We want to eat lighter. We have more space for that energy to come in, and that's how we rise. We raise that kundalini. We rise that up, and that's so beautiful. And the higher you get, the more everything, it becomes into that alignment, isn't it? Into that heart, mind, soul alignment, which is that divine present place of God, Goddess. That's
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
It's not rocket science, is it? It's like, it's just being here.
Yeah.
Now. That's it, isn't it?
That's it. I mean, the truth is always so simple. If someone tries to sell you something complicated, it's a lie. The truth is very simple. And so we just have to get back to this simplicity of who we are and what we're here to do. And all it is just to be. Like you said, it's just to be present. It's not hard. And as soon as we start to be, we recognize that I am one with this moment. I am one with my brothers and sisters. I am one with this earth around me. And therefore, in order to be even more here, I serve the oneness, I serve the all. And so you enter into this service space, which just continues to expound exponentially to get to grow even more and more and more. And yeah, it just keeps building that way. Yeah, wow, what a beautiful experience.
I know. It really, wow, it's just amazing. So at this time now, with everything that's happening around us now, what are the most important things for people to awaken to now within themselves?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I'd say you hit it with just start with going within yourself.
Yeah.
Truly stop looking for answers in the outer world. Stop trying to
Mm.
blame. Stop blaming your relationships for your problems. Stop blaming your situation for your problems. Really look within. Take responsibility for where you are and recognize that everything that's happening and has happened to you is absolutely,
Self-created.
it's
Self-created.
it's self-created and absolutely perfect to get you in the space where you are right now so that you can learn and grow and continue onward. And as soon as you start transitioning away from this victim mindset of like everything is happening to me and instead recognize that everything is happening for me. This is
Yeah.
all
Then you become
happening
the
for me.
creator.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that would be a fantastic place to start. And then when you start truly do stand in that place of empowerment and recognize that you are that divine essence, you are God incarnate, you are part of this infinite consciousness, then you can you really start to play with the present moment and really step into it a lot more. And I always like to do this in spaces of nature. I think this is such a beautiful space to get
Mm.
into, get away from the noise. That organized society is all about noise and keeping us away from that stillness and silence, which is going
Mm.
within.
That's right.
Nature is the opposite of that. So if you can get into these spaces of nature, go sit by the river or a creek, or go listen to the leaves blow and truly just be present with it. Don't try and be thinking about anything else. Don't try and be if thoughts wander in, don't judge yourself for having them, but really try and focus on the present moment. So listen to the birds chirping, listen to the leaves blowing, look at the beautiful sights. And the more you can practice getting into that moment in those spaces of nature, then you can carry that over and to be present in all spaces, no matter what the noise is outside, no matter if you're in the busiest, war-torn explosions and whatever else, you can still be in that space of stillness and silence, still be in that present moment. And that's true meditation. That's
Yes.
truly being present, which is all meditation is. I think there are
Yes.
beautiful practices of having sitting cross-legged and getting into that intentional space. I think that's beautiful practices, but ultimately the goal with those is to carry that state of being into each and every single moment,
And
to where
into
you
every
just
thought, feeling, word, and action that you make in your everyday life.
exactly. And the more that we can do that and recognize that, the more that we're continually connected with divine source, with God, because that's the only space that God truly is with us, is
Yeah.
when we are present.
Yeah.
As soon
Because
as
God is not in the past or the future. God is only in the now.
oh, big puppy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's he's only here, and yeah, so the more we can draw back into that, the better we can connect with this divinity.
Yeah.
Um, and then on top of that, I think a really tangible place for people to start is to really recognize what we are consuming. What
Mm.
is your
Mm.
what are your eating habits, and
Yeah.
what are you consuming within news and information?
Yes.
What are you consuming within your relationships? It's all this continue. What are your inputs
Yeah.
to this divine vessel that I'm acting as a conduit for my connection with God? And if you can recognize that I'm still eating meat, or I'm still consuming flesh, or because that, all of that is just karma tied subjugation. You know, you are imposing will over another sentient being. You're
Yes.
destroying life in some way, so that karma is going to tie into you.
Yeah. And the energy, that negative, aggressive energy of that pain, the moment that animal was murdered, that energy stays in its muscles, and then people eat that muscle, and that causes that aggressive
Exactly.
feelings and thoughts.
Yep. Yep. And then you take it a step further, you know, you look at the, even just cooking our food, you know, you're destroying
I
its
hate
life
the oven
essence.
now.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and it's designed to create another temptation, because it does taste delicious and it has these addictive flavors. But in essence, you're killing the life out of the food. You're taking this
Yes,
living
because
source
it's the
that.
life force energy.
Mhm.
We need the life force energy
Mhm.
from the sun, from the prana that comes into every fruit and vegetable.
Mhm.
And then we eat that and we get that. We get that when we do breathing, the prana in the air, but we need it from the fruit and vegetables. It's the life force energy. So when you cook it, you're killing the life force.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the conceptualization that all fruit is the fruit that hangs from the tree is just solidified breath of God. You know, it's just this,
Ah,
the tree is breathing, and it breathes this beautiful fruit that's just begging for you to take it. It's begging to give it to you. It is the ultimate gift from God, from Creator, because that's what it's for. It's for our consumption. It's for us. We don't have to take anything. If we didn't take it, it would just fall on the ground and grow more trees, you know, like it is there for us.
it's
Whereas,
free. Yeah.
yeah, and whereas any animal, there's no animal that's out there saying,
No,
take my life and consume me. That's
no.
complete, that
And
steers into this.
yeah.
Yeah.
And soon there will be fruit trees along all the streets and in all, I mean, as you said before, I remember last time you said, there's going to be like a split where they'll have the cities and they'll be plugged into the matrix and getting the jabs and all of the until it gets to the time where it does, everyone on the planet does awaken, which it will do one day. In how many thousands of years we don't know, but then people like us, we're going to be out doing our fruits and vegetables, doing our beautiful retreats, I think so many more people, everyone I know is wanting to get the land and move out.
Mhm. Yeah, I really do think that those pockets of people who still want to live that way are going to be very small. I think the cities that do that are going to be very, very small, and it won't take long for them to realize just the insanity of doing that. But it will be an option for people. But like you said, everyone else will recognize that we can reclaim this earth, and we can
Yes.
plant the fruit trees everywhere, and it's really quite simple. You know, it's
Yes.
really not that complicated.
No, it's not. Simplified the
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
And Justin, how can our audience who are listening to and watching this, how can they help to awaken and, help their friends and family out of away from the propaganda? How can they
Yeah.
do that? Because that's really important. No, they say, oh, I don't know how to do it. What can I do?
Well, and it might not be the answer that you'd expect, but I would say that at this point, do not try and force it on anyone. Do not try and tell anyone about anything that's outlandish or crazy. You know, like, you can ask questions. I think questions, the what is it called? Asking questions is a great way to sort of spur on that inquisitive nature of those who aren't quite seeing what's going on. But don't tell anyone anything. Don't try and impose it on anyone, because at this point, if they are not curious to the truth, they're not ready to discover it until it kind of smacks them in the face, and they have to
Yes.
wait for this moment to where it's going to reveal itself
And then
publicly.
it's, yeah.
And then when you've planted those seeds and they've recognized that you're available to them, they will come to you with more questions. You will be that beacon of light for them to seek out, and to be that their personal representative of truth. So
Mm,
all of us are strategically located in different places. A lot of us have felt very isolated in this, like, I don't know anyone around me. But
yeah.
in essence, when you look at it, it's perfect, because God has created us to
Yeah.
all be in the exact space where we need to be, so that when the truth does come out, we're available to our loved ones. We're available to those who have been asleep and need to have someone that they can trust to reach out to and ask these sort of questions. So for now, I would say continue that self-work, continue just shining brightly, continue doing the things that we've
continue leading by example,
of stepping into your
leading by example, because we can't change
Exactly.
anyone. If we just go on our path and we just keep putting out there what we keep putting out, then we will attract them people who want to know the truth to us. It's just it's an attraction, isn't it? So, and you lead by example. So yeah,
exactly. So yeah, speak the truth, but just don't only when you're invited to do so. So wait for that invitation.
Otherwise they'll think you're crazy.
Yeah, otherwise it just creates conflict, and it creates
Yeah.
this division, and it creates we don't need to disregard our family or fight with anyone, because they've chosen their soul path of not being ready to awaken in this particular moment, and they will suffer the consequences of not having done so at an earlier time, in the sense that it's going to be more shocking, it's going to be more uncomfortable, but it's all divinely perfect, it's all karmically perfect to get us exactly to where we need to go. So you just need to recognize that in your space, you are to help facilitate this transition in its due time. But right now we're being asked to be patient.
We are. I think also we're being prepared. I mean, I've been in my cave in my bedroom for a couple of years now. Actually, I've been on my path for many, many years, being in remote places in Italy and everything, always alone, always on my path. But I know that we're all being prepared. We're being prepared to get our platforms ready and our places ready and our own selves ready for this, to help others. Yeah.
And the more that we can go in that space where we connect with God, then we're always going to be led to that space where we need to go. And that's just how it works. And so yeah, just continue leading by example, and it all works out.
It does. And it's all going to work out in the end, because God, Goddess have already won.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly.
Oh, it's been absolutely brilliant. And I just love chatting with you so much, Justin.
Me too, sister. It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to
It's so good.
be here and see you, and just see you shining brightly. Thank you so much for all you do.
Yeah, and thank you. And I just want to say thank you for coming back again on this beautiful Great Awakening show and sharing all of your truth, because we really need it at this time.
Of course. I'm happy to come back anytime. It's always a pleasure.
Lovely.